Hey there, it's Olivia Savannah here from Olivia's Catastrophe, and today I'm here to give you a book haul of some books that I've recently hauled in. I'm very excited to show you all of these books. The very first 4 books I have to show you I'm very proud of being able to find. I found them in Bath when I was with my sister. We popped into an Oxford, which is a secondhand shop here in the UK, and I found these special editions of Charles Dickens. They were all in individual slipcases and there were 8 of them, but I only bought half of them because the other 4 of them showed some slight rotting on the pages. And I also took off the slipcases because I could see that the slipcases were what was rotting because of the air movement within them, and then it was going onto the pages after that. So I thought for the ones that were still in good condition that I took home with me, I should take off their slipcases. The 4 Charles Dickens editions I've got, look at those spines, aren't they gorgeous? But also the individual books themselves, they're quite heavy, are different colours, which is gorgeous. All of them are Dickens I haven't read yet, but I've been in such a Dickens reading mood after loving A Tale of Two Cities this side of the year, and then also reading Great Expectations this year, and as well as them having gorgeous spines and each of them being a different colour, you will be able to see they all have sprayed edges. So it's the old-fashioned type of sprayed edge where it's just on the top there, but I still absolutely love it. And these are folio editions, very early folio editions, and the Dickens books that they are, because I have not told you yet, are Hard Times, Nicholas, Nickleby, Barnaby, Rudge, and Our Mutual Friend. So those are the Dickens collections. I am so happy to have them. I love them to pieces. Also on the front of special editions, my Evernight subscription came through, and it was An Academy of Liars by Alexis Henderson. This is a dark academia book. I think the original cover looks like this and I find it quite plain, so I'm very happy to have this edition of it. I've never read anything by Alexis Henderson before, but I've been meaning to read her vampire novel for a very long time, but I'll be starting here. From what I know about this is we've got a black main character. I know it's dark academia, and I know that there's some kind of like monster reflection looking back at you. It's got the extension of the haunted house thing on the sprayed edge, some really nice foiling on the back and on the front, and then naked hardcover. It looks like this, which is really pretty with some gold foiling on it as well. The spine, the back door that's slightly open, the end papers. Look at those pretty end papers. So yeah. Oh, different end papers here. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I will try this and let you know my thoughts. I've been in Evernight subscription for a very long time now for someone who's not read any of those books yet, so I need to get on that. The last special edition I have to show you is part of an event. So I went to the House of YA brunch that they did for influencers, and they invited us, and they also invited 3 of their young adult thriller writers, and it was really nice to have brunch all together. And I can't believe I got to sit round a table and have brunch with Karen and McManus, whose young adult thrillers have taken me by surprise over the years. I read the entirety of the One of Us is Lying trilogy, and I just soaked them up because I loved the drama and murder combination. And then I read Nothing More to Tell, which is actually my favourite one of hers so far. And in the goodie bag was a hardcover edition of Such Charming Liars by Karen M. McManus with a pink sprayed edge, and I got it signed while I was there, and it says "Fake it till you make it out alive." This one is about Kat's mother, who is a jewel thief trying to go on the straight and narrow, but she's just going to do one last con, which is to steal a $1 billion worth necklace from a billionaire. And so in the process of doing that, she ends up in this compound where somebody is shot, trying to find out who did it and who is lying and who is telling the truth before they all end up dead. And it just sounds like Karen McManus will work her usual magic. This seems like a very different plot to the other ones that I've read before. Most of them have been set in a school setting, and this is not. But in Karen M. McManus, like, she's doing YA thrillers the best. They're my favourite YA thrillers. I'm pretty much guaranteed to have a good time. While I was in Bath, I went to Toppings Bath for the very first time with my sibling, and we had a great time in there, browsing and joking and looking at books. And we both picked up a book each. I had a gift card, so I spent my gift card, and I got Next of Kin by Hannah Bonam-Young. So this author is well known for Out on a Limb, adult romance, but why I wanted to read this one in particular is because of the representation in it. So in this we're following 2 carers who fall in love and have their romance story. One of them, which I believe is him, he has a younger sibling who is deaf, and he is his brother's carer, which I feel like I'm going to see a lot of myself in that representation because I am a sibling to my younger sibling, and I am their carer. Love interest, and she is a carer as a guardian, and she is a guardian to a newborn baby that's been adopted. And for means that I do not understand from the synopsis, they end up moving in together for the sake of their people that they're caring for, and I believe their romance starts. So it'll be nice to see a carer romance. I don't get to see that very often. Thank you so much to the publisher for sending across a copy of At Dark I Become Loathsome by LaRocca. I have had an up and down relationship with reading LaRocca's books. I've loved the first short story collection I read and their novella, and then I've struggled with some of the other short story collections. But the reason why I'm so excited about this one is that it's going back to being a novel. Their novel was my favourite thing of theirs that I've read. I also tend to like any of the short stories that focus on grief, and this whole novel focuses on grief in particular. It's about this person who sets up this like forum, and then we follow our main character who is grieving, intensely grieving, and reaches out online to this person so that they can connect, and it starts a spiral of toxicity between them both. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what LaRocca does with this like grief-infused horror, which just sounds like everything I tend to love in a book. We have Universality by Natasha Brown, who is best known for Assembly, which was her first book. So thank you so much to the publisher for sending this my way. This one is set in this small town where a man is bludgeoned to death by a gold bar, and a journalist is sent there to figure out what happened. And it's about that small town nature, it's about the power of language, and it's got that murder element at its core as well. I think it also touches on class. It like touches on a lot of different things from what I am seeing in the synopsis. So I'm curious to see what I will think of it myself. It's also not that long, so it feels very readable to me, or looks very readable to me. And yeah, I've been meaning to read Assembly, so sometimes it's nice when you get a different book by an author that you've been meaning to try, and you can dip in and see if they're one for you. At work for Black History Month, which is not this month anymore, but in Black History Month in the UK, which is October, they did a giveaway of books by Black authors, but they included books from different publishers. So this is not published by Macmillan, but there was a copy of Small Worlds by Caleb Azumah Nelson, and I literally ran to go and get this because it was a hot book. Everybody really wanted to get this one from the giveaway. Now, I have read Open Water, and the year that I read it, it was in my Best Books of the Year video. I really loved it and thought it was fantastic, and so I'm very excited to read more by Caleb Azumah Nelson. As far as I know about this one, it divvies up its time between the UK and between Ghana, I want to say, and it's focused a lot on music and the power of music, and this character who's really driven by music, and Caleb Azumah Nelson's writing style is lyrical and gorgeous and beautiful, so I'm expecting that to come through as well. To be honest, I don't really care what this book is about. I will read Caleb Azumah's next book because the first one was just so good. I went to the markets and I was being very good, and I didn't pick up too many things, but then I saw in the secondhand stall at the markets a copy of Prophet Song by Lynch. Now, me getting this one is a bit out of my comfort zone because this is the Booker Prize winner for 2023, and have I got along with a single book on the Booker long list or short list? No, like I don't do well with Booker books, but I have seen reads and reveries on Instagram talking about how good this book was, and lots of people really loved it, so I'm going to trust those reviews and really hope that it's going to be one for me, even though I'm a bit skeptical. And this one follows a woman who lives in Dublin, and one day some officers turn up at her door and they're here to interrogate her husband, who is part of a union, and then her husband goes missing, and the question is, what will she do for her family? Who will she leave behind in the process of trying to find her missing husband? Thank you to the publisher for sending me a copy of Feast While You Can by Mickaella, Clements and Onjuli Datta. I love the title, Feast While You Can. I love the gradient colours of the cover, and this one is a seductive horror book about this woman who kind of has a monster growing within her, and the only time that this monster is kept at bay is when she's touching a particular person, which of course becomes quite steamy. And so it's about like allure, sex and power, but also what will she do? What is this monster wanting from her? So yeah, I was intrigued when I saw how gorgeous it was, when I heard that it's got steamy elements, and I'm loving the horror genre lately. Thank you so much to Mills & Boon for sending me a copy of Church Girl by Naima Simone. Now, I read a Christmas novel by Naima Simone and it really took me by surprise. I loved it. I thought it was a really good depiction of like relationships and character growth and romance, while also having all of those Christmassy feels. So I'm very excited to read another book by Naima Simone, and I picked up Church Girl because it is called Church Girl and I'm a church girl, I'm a church girly, and I love when I read books that have religious elements to it, whether that's religious horror, whether that's like non-fiction. And in this one we're following this good little church girl, and she ends up running away from her wedding, running away and going to this small town where she finds it very hard to land a job, and she needs money to make ends meet, and ends up babysitting, or nannying I should say, for this man. And this man happens to be a gritty, sexy tattoo artist with a child. And so I think it's their romantic story and about how she maybe loosens up. There's this stereotype that church girls are uptight, but what could they be talking about? I have to say a big thank you to Kasha from Horror Sickness, because she was so lovely and she gifted me a copy of You're the One That I Want by Simon James Green when I saw her at Yalk. This was a book I saw in a bookshop and I was very, very tempted to get it while I was on a book buying ban in the Netherlands, which has been over a year ago, but Kasha remembered that and she got me a copy, and she even got it signed by the author for me, which is just really lovely of her, and now I get to read it. So I've been wanting to read Simon James Green for a while. He's been on my wish list because of the fact that Kaz from Cats and Camera really likes his books, and I think me and Kaz have similar young adult, queer, contemporary tastes. Get some recommendations from her, and yeah, we read a lot of the same young adult queer books. This one is following our main character who's kind of just living his life, and then he decides that he needs to say yes to everything. He becomes, you know that film Yes Man, which I've never actually watched? That is him. He says yes to everything. And it takes him on this wild ride where he ends up like flirting with the hottest person, going to parties and doing all sorts of different things. He's also queer, and I think at some point it's all gonna blow up in his face. He ends up auditioning for the school musical for Grease, hence the title. I love the musical Grease, so yeah. This sounds like it's gonna be like a pool of fun. I love a good queer young adult contemporary book. While I was at that same Oxfam where I bought all those hardcover books, even though I didn't have a mode to transport them back to London, we move, I also saw a copy of Chlorine by Jade Song, and this is one that I was intrigued by, but I wouldn't have spent full price on it, so I'm very glad that I found it for £1 or £2 at a secondhand shop. And what I know about this one is that it's about young women and the pressure of expectations and success and ambition that is forced upon them. Particularly, we're following a character who swims and is doing competitive swimming, and I think there's some horror elements to this. I think there's some like mermaid element to this. I'm not particularly sure, but it sounds intriguing. The reviews have been mixed, but I'm ready to go in with my magical realism reading brain on. Thank you to the publisher for sending me a copy of Needy Little Things by Chanelle Desamours, and this is a proof copy. It comes out in February next year, and it's a young adult thriller. You know I enjoy that genre, I've mentioned before in this video, and this is by a black author, so that intrigued me already. And in this one we're following our main character who has a special gift, which is that she can sense what people need even before they know that they need it themselves. And when one night she's out with her friends to celebrate her 18th birthday, she senses that her friend needs pepper spray, so she gives it to her friend. But then shortly afterwards her friend goes missing, and she's very worried about what it means that her friend needed pepper spray. And on the back it says the police don't help, the media don't notice, and her friends won't let her be ignored. So I think it's about young black girls going missing, and they have to solve that mystery themselves because nobody else seems to care. From that Penguin event one is Keep Your Friends Close by Cynthia Murphy. This one is also a young adult thriller. It's set in 1999, and that's all I know about it, really. It's about this school where everything's kind of going wrong in our main character's life, and she stumbles across the book of Crime and Punishment, where it labels all of the crimes or things that are bad that students have done in her school. And before you know it, these pages get circulated, and actually the students start to be killed one by one according to this book for what they've done. And so it's down to her to figure out who is the killer before she becomes killed herself. That sounds like a very good premise. I love it. It's bringing Burn Book from Mean Girls energy. And last but not least, I've got 2 books here from publishers where they sent me finished copies of things that I've already read. So thank you to Source Books for sending across a copy of Pansies by Alexis Hall. This is the 4th, and it was previously the last book in the Spires series. However, Alexis Hall has announced that he is continuing the series and there's going to be another 2 books set within the Spires universe. But I read this back when it was indie published with its old cover, and now it is here with its last and finished cover. It is a romance between 2 characters, one of which is really struggling with a lot of internalized homophobia, and you really see him start to work through it in this book in particular, and the other is incredibly comfortable with his sexuality and is kind of having to deal with or be there for our character who's really struggling with it. They have had a little thing in the past, and this is now a second chance romance book as well. I remember when I read this one, I gave it 5 stars and it did become a new favourite, like every single book in the Spy series is. But when I read this one, I remember the fact that I really remember being stuck in that state where you cannot sleep, where you cannot eat, where you cannot do anything else until the book is read, and that is how I felt when I was whizzing through this one. And then last but not least, I want to show you a finished copy of a poetry collection I read in proof, and that is Forest of Noise by Mosab Abu Toha. When I read this, it became very quickly, it became one of the best poetry collections I've read so far this year, because this is by a Palestinian poet, and oh my goodness, is it charged with emotion. It's living poetry because of the fact that there is this ongoing conflict happening, this ongoing genocide happening in Gaza, in Palestine at the moment, and this is from the perspective of Mosab, who was in Palestine when things kicked off from October 7th onwards, even though things had kicked off well before then, and how he had to flee. And it's also just touching on the different lives and experiences that people have had or are having right now as we speak, as we watch this video, in Gaza, in Palestine. So you can imagine that it is rich and rife with emotion, but even if we are ignoring the subject matter, why would we? But if we are, theoretically, the writing itself is really, really good. It's very good poetry. The literary devices, the way that he has chosen specific words to bring across specific emotions, it's all done really, really well. And I would say that this one is accessible to those who do not read poetry frequently but would like to show support of a Palestinian author at the moment, or just want to read it to give it a try. And so I loved this one. 5 stars. And there you have it. Those are all of the books that I have recently added to my shelves. Please let me know in the comment section down below what was the last book that you have bought, borrowed, received or acquired. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Hit the subscribe button if you want to see more, and don't you forget to hit that notification bell to be updated every time I have a new video. And you know what they say, onwards and upwards. Excelsior!
Thank you.